Tuesday, the 28th of May, and I am back yet again since the 13th of March, checking in at 1 o'clock Sydney time every weekday lunchtime just to say hello. And yesterday I did successfully double screen for the first time and managed to get the body scan up. So some people have been watching the replays of yesterday's body scan on Instagram, Facebook, or on YouTube. Feel free to share it if you found it useful. I got some really lovely feedback from that yesterday, and I'm really glad you enjoyed it. So I'd like to say a special, I don't know who's there yet because no one's clicking any buttons, but I'd like to say happy level 3 to my New Zealand friends, and those in Queensland and Western Australia are getting quite a bit of loosening up. I think Queensland, you can go up to 50 kilometres from home. You can go to the beach, you can go camping, you can go to national parks. Things aren't quite at that stage in New South Wales, but we're rather buoyed up by our Premier saying today that from Friday, from the 1st of May, we're allowed to have two adults and as many kids as is practical come and visit you in your own home. Of course, you're going to take some safe measures. And that's really buoyed people up, just as in New Zealand the thought of perhaps somebody else's cooking with some restaurant takeaways. And here's certainly about sharing our cooking with visitors is a really nice pick-me-up, because it's been a sign that perhaps, yes, the curve has flattened and this beginning of safe, hopefully, loosening of restrictions. So one of the reasons I did the body scan yesterday was because on Friday I certainly noticed some kind of quarantine fatigue or ISO fatigue happening. And I think that's probably because our nervous systems were beginning to calm down. So those who read my website, jillstannard.com.au, probably know or used to listen to me on 3RRR for almost 20 years on Health Trip, know that I'm a really big fan of understanding how our nervous system works. So our nervous system has what's called a sympathetic pathway of the autonomic nervous system, which is our survival. So that's the fight, flight, and freeze. So fight, flight, and freeze is absolutely necessary for getting through acutely stressful situations. The problem is that we have evolved to such a degree is that this kicks in for us humans who are chronically stressed. So it's not just that we are staring down the woolly mammoth. It's not that our life is threatened. Certainly we can have some moments in the car when we're driving or being driven when it just feels like, oh my goodness, someone's going to T-bone us. That's acute stress. Chronic stress is all about not getting enough sleep, feeling our life is restricted, general unhappiness, working in a job you don't love, losing a job that you did love or if you didn't love it, being concerned about how you're going to pay the mortgage or the rent, and so on. And so one of the problems is that when we are chronically stressed, our adrenal glands are pushing out all that cortisol. I don't know if you can hear, but pretty much every day at 1 o'clock, someone starts a leaf blower or some electronic tools outside. So kind of like we've swapped the flight path for the planes overhead for people being very active with power tools. But getting back to the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system is, as I said, it's about survival. But when we're chronically stressed, our adrenal glands keep popping out all that extra cortisol, which means that autonomically we don't kind of have mind control over to autonomically we start to pump out a bit more blood and nerve flow to our heart, lungs, muscles and brain. So what we need to run or to hide or to fight. And we take it away from somewhere. We take it away from our gut, our reproductive system and our skin. Now that's all fine when it's the woolly mammoth situation, but kind of what I think's happened in our lockdown fearful times is that a lot of us have had a very acute response to fear and anxiety, to the restrictions, to not knowing our future, for fear of being sick, being very, very concerned about other people in our lives being sick. And kind of what's happened over a number of weeks is, for some of us, particularly in Australia and New Zealand, I know it's very different in other parts of the world, our curve pretty much began to flatten. Things perhaps don't appear to be so bad as they could be because we've had some really, really effective government enforced social distancing measures. And I think kind of what was happening by last week was this quarantine fatigue, but really on a physiological reaction, probably our nervous systems were going back to normal. And that means that we were kind of dumped by the end of that cortisol high and all that overactivation of our autonomic nervous system, so kind of like thump back to normal. So if a part of our body overacts or overreacts for a period of time, there's a compensation that happens in your body. I was going to say, it's like if you really work out at the gym or really do excessive exercise and pump your muscles, then they're going to hurt if you're not used to it. So this is a bit like after a big workout as far as our adrenal glands are concerned. Your cortisol is going back to something that's more normal and you're probably going to feel flat. So psychologically, we have reasons to feel flat, but physiologically, the thing that we can't control so much is why I think a lot of people really started to plummet last week. So hopefully now, in the states and countries where some restrictions are easing, starting to get a bit happier, starting to have a bit of a bounce back from that lull. I really noticed that in other practitioners that I work with this week. On Friday, things were quite dire, and by Monday, it's like life is not so bad after all. And today, hey, we're going to have visitors soon, so that's kind of nice. So I think that's a lot of that to shoot with your adrenal glands. Now, we don't know what waves are coming next, so I think today's message is about loving your adrenal glands. Things that stress our adrenal glands are things that simulate actual stress in our body. And kind of number one is things like caffeine. It's going too long without food, so our body thinks that we are in a survival situation. So extended periods of fasting, but it can be you forget to eat breakfast, you've been up since 7, it's now 3 in the afternoon. That's a physiological stress in your body. I know there's other thoughts around fasting that say other things, but I'm just saying from a really basic level, that's a physiological stress. Not getting enough sleep is a physiological stress. It's bad enough if it's a one-off, but if it's prolonged, you're living on 5 or 6 hours sleep or less, or it's very broken, as I think any new parent would know, that puts you into a stress state. So I would really encourage you, while we're kind of going through a bit more of a golden time here in Australia and New Zealand, where things are looking a bit more optimistic, to maybe take a break from the alcohol. I know this is a thing that keeps coming up. It's because overconsumption of alcohol has been a really key feature of this quarantine isolation time. So to pull back on the caffeine now. You know, if you have been having the energy drinks, the Coke products, the cola products, green tea, white tea, black tea, coffee, a lot of chocolatey sorts of things, that could really make your adrenal glands work harder than they want to. Pull back on the sugar and maybe think about the warming foods. What your adrenal glands kind of like is to be physically well, to keep your kidneys warm. So if it's starting to cool down where you are, make sure that your back, your midriff, isn't there, that it's been kept warm. There's some wonderful things in Chinese medicine. I'm not a Chinese medicine practitioner, but there's actually kind of felted woolly things that women can wear to protect their kidneys, which is a lovely idea. But to have some warming foods, some slow-cooked warming foods, like some slow-cooked soups and stews, your porridge, maybe ease away from the salads if it's cool down where you are. Food, I kind of call it semi-digested food. Food that's well cooked would be a really great place to start. And to rest. So we have put out some spot fires. Looks like we've got the all clear for a little while of that kind of fire metaphor. Now we need to rest and replenish. So our adrenal glands, if they're called back in to put us back into survival, we know we've got some resources. So those are my thoughts for today. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back again tomorrow at 1 p.m. If you missed the body scan, go to YouTube and just put in Jill Stannard Naturopath. And if you've got anything you'd like me to cover, please do. In the meantime, enjoy the sunshine and everything else that is happening in your world, and be kind to yourself. Be kind.